Ever get that feeling like your brain is kind of working against you?
Oh, yeah,
Like it's making things harder than they need to be.
definitely.
Today, we're going to do a deep dive into a book that really digs into that whole idea.
Okay.
The book is Don't Believe Everything You Think by Joseph Nguyen.
Interesting title.
And it's all about how so much of our suffering
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm,
might actually be totally self-created,
yeah.
you know?
Okay. Yeah.
Like, it's not the circumstances themselves, it's how we think about them that really
Yeah.
gets us.
Right. Right.
Pretty wild, huh?
It is. So, like, we're really going to look at how our thoughts can actually be the root of a lot of our unhappiness.
Totally. So let's jump right in.
Okay.
One of the biggest things Nguyen talks about is this idea
Yeah.
that thoughts are not reality.
Okay.
Like, we tend to treat them like facts.
Right.
Like, oh, this is definitely true,
Mm-hmm.
but they're really just interpretations.
Like our own personal spin on things.
Yeah, it's like our minds are these little movie directors,
Oh, I like that.
constantly coming up with stories and narratives.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
Mhm.
sometimes those stories are more like horror films than,
Yeah.
happy feel-good comedies.
Definitely. And we get so caught up in the plot
Yeah.
that we forget it's all just a movie. Like it's not actually real.
Totally. And that's where the suffering comes into play.
Absolutely. Because if we're believing these negative stories all the time,
Mhm.
it's like,
Yeah,
well, no wonder we're feeling stressed or anxious or down.
makes sense. So what Nguyen suggests is this. The next time you catch yourself having a negative thought,
Yeah.
try just labeling it as a thought,
Okay.
not a fact.
I see.
So instead of, ugh, I'm such a failure,
Right.
you'd say, okay, I'm having the thought that I'm a failure.
Oh, that's good.
It creates a little distance.
It does. Like you're suddenly observing it rather than
Right.
being totally consumed by it.
And that can make a huge difference.
Yeah, it really can. I've tried this myself, and it's amazing how much less power those negative thoughts have when you kind of step back from them.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right.
So that's like a really practical tool right there.
Totally. Something you can start doing like right now.
Exactly. Now, another thing Nguyen talks about that I think we can all relate to is
Mhm.
how these thoughts can trap us in stories about the past and the future.
Oh, yeah.
Like we dwell on regrets,
Oh,
or
yeah.
we get all anxious and worked up about things that might happen.
Totally. Like constantly playing out worst case scenarios in our heads.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. I used to be so bad about this with presentations.
Worry?
I get so nervous about them beforehand that I completely forget to
Oh, no.
actually prepare for them.
You'd just be worrying about what could go wrong.
Exactly. It was like my brain was so busy making up problems
Hmm.
that it couldn't focus on the actual solution.
Wow. That's a perfect example of how these mental movies can totally sabotage us.
I know. It's like I was setting myself up for failure before I even began.
And so what did you do? How'd you get past that?
Well, Nguyen really emphasizes the importance of present moment awareness as the antidote.
Okay.
Instead of getting lost in those mental narratives,
Yeah.
it's about bringing your attention back to your senses.
So like what you can see, hear, feel in the moment.
Exactly. What do you see, hear, feel, taste, even smell right now?
Yeah.
And taking a few deep breaths can really help bring you back to the present, too.
Like hitting the pause button on that mental movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's a simple but powerful technique.
It is. So we've talked about how to deal with those kind of fleeting negative thoughts and how to pull ourselves back into the present moment. But what about those really deep-seated beliefs?
Oh, yeah.
The ones that feel so true and so real, like I'm not good enough or I'll never be successful.
Yeah, those are tough.
They are, and they can really hold us back in life.
So how do we even begin to challenge those?
Well, that's where Nguyen's concept of inquiry comes in.
Inquiry.
Yeah, it's about not just blindly accepting those beliefs, but really putting them on trial.
Ooh, interesting.
So you ask yourself, is this belief actually true? Like, is there real evidence to support it?
Mhm.
And where did this belief even come from?
Oh,
Like, did I come up with it myself or did I kind of inherit it from somewhere?
So for the I'm not good enough belief, it'd be like,
Yeah,
okay, what are some examples of times where I have been good enough?
exactly.
What are some things I've actually accomplished?
Yeah, focusing on those successes rather than just accepting that negative label.
Right, because a lot of the time those beliefs are just inherited from childhood
Totally.
or, from society, not from any actual evidence about ourselves.
It's like we're carrying around these old, outdated scripts that don't even apply to us anymore.
And then we wonder why we're not feeling fulfilled. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have. We've talked about how to distance ourselves from those negative thoughts,
Right?
bring our attention back to the present moment,
Hmm.
and even how to challenge those deep-seated beliefs.
But how do we actually put all of this into practice?
Right, because it's one thing to understand these concepts,
Yeah.
but another thing entirely to actually live them out.
So what does Nguyen say about that?
Well, he offers a bunch of practical tools and exercises.
Like what?
Well, he talks a lot about mindful observation and meditation.
Okay, I've tried those before.
Have you?
Yeah, even just 5 minutes of focused breathing can make such a difference.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's like giving my brain a little vacation from all the drama.
Uh-huh, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what mindfulness is all about, really.
Okay.
Just observing your thoughts and emotions without judgment.
Like, oh, hey, there's anxiety popping up again.
Exactly.
No big deal.
And meditation can help to cultivate that awareness.
Are there specific types of meditations that are good for this?
There are, but honestly, even just a basic guided meditation can be a great starting point.
Yeah, I've done some of those online.
You can find tons of them online, even 5-minute ones if you're short on time.
So that's something anyone can do, really.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about mindfulness and meditation,
Mhm.
but Nguyen also talks about the importance of acceptance.
Now, I think that one can be kind of tough for people
It can be, especially when you're going through a really tough time.
because it sounds like you're just giving up.
Right. But that's not what acceptance is about at all.
So what is it about?
It's about acknowledging reality as it is without resistance. Like, imagine your emotions are like waves.
Okay.
You can't stop them from coming, but you don't have to drown in them.
Wow, that's a good analogy.
You can let them wash over you and pass.
So it's like saying, okay, anxiety, I see you, I feel you, but I'm not going to let you run the show.
Exactly. And that's what Nguyen is ultimately getting at.
What's that?
We have way more power over our thoughts and feelings than we realize.
Really?
We can choose how we respond to them. And in doing so, we can free ourselves from so much unnecessary suffering.
That's a really empowering message.
It is, because
Yeah.
it means we're not just victims of our own minds.
Right. We have a choice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to recap, the key takeaway here is we don't have to believe everything we think.
That's huge.
It is. We have the power to challenge those thoughts,
Mhm.
to choose different ones, and ultimately to create a much more peaceful and joyful experience for ourselves.
It sounds like this Nguyen guy is onto something.
He really is. His book is full of incredible insights and practical advice.
It's called Don't Believe Everything You Think, right?
That's it. And I highly recommend checking it out if you're intrigued by what we've talked about today.
Definitely. And, as we wrap up here,
Yeah.
I'm curious,
So what about?
what's one belief that you think if people let go of, it would really dramatically improve their lives?
That's a good question. Let me think for a second.
Yeah, no pressure.
I think for a lot of people, it's that belief that they're not enough.
Like, I'm not good enough, I'm not
Simple
smart
as
enough.
that. Because when you're holding on to that belief, it really limits you.
It does. It prevents you from going after your dreams, from taking risks.
Yeah, and from really fully embracing who you are.
So maybe that's something for our listeners to really ponder.
Yeah.
It's one belief that if you let go of it,
Mm-hmm.
would drastically improve your life.
That's a great challenge. I love that.
And if you're struggling with that,
Yeah.
Nguyen's book goes into a lot of detail about how to challenge those beliefs and how to start replacing them with more empowering ones.
It does. It gives you a whole toolkit for transformation.
Well, this has been a really fascinating deep dive.
It has. I always love exploring these topics with you.
Me too. And thank you to all our listeners for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in.
And we'll see you next time for another deep dive into the world of ideas.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.